Operation Domination is underway. The ultimate game plan to dominate your NFL experience. With your hosts, Dan
You gotta be confident about your Achilles when you
Chase
show up.
Thornton,
Yeah, I mean, I got it.
and Adam LaRue. Don't hope to be great and dominate.
Gobble, 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 gobble. What's up, everybody? It's Turkey Day on Operation Domination. Thank you for tuning in before these games kick off. I'm sure the turkeys are in the oven, the pies are baking, and it's going to be a great day to line your pockets green. As always, I'm your host, Dan Mader. We have the first live show of the season because there's no other way to do this episode when you have 4 games before you even reach Sunday. And to help me out, as always, I have Chaz Filardi of Sports Betting Weekly on. Chaz, how we doing today?
Well, it's Thanksgiving in San Diego. It was 54 degrees this morning. But I said, what do I wear on the show? And I went OG, baby. I went OG.
Oh, reference back to the MD's Fantasy Football Show.
OG, baby. So yeah, you know what? Good week again. Very thankful. I'm very thankful that the Lord has put me in this position to where I could put money in, take money out, leave the money in that I have. That's their money. So I'm playing with their money today. That's always a good day.
God and gambling. No, I know two better things go together. I'm very thankful to have you on the show. I'm very thankful to have everybody here at Operation Domination and on the Fantasy Football Advice Network. Make sure you download us on your favorite podcast app and check out our video content on YouTube at FF AdviceNet.
Okay,
right.
now I have to make sure we're clear. So we're doing it now because there are 4 games, but you don't. If you miss this, you need to still go back and watch it because there's 12 games that aren't going to be today.
Well, we're doing the full slate, so we're doing.
But they don't. If they miss it today, they don't have to think that. Oh, I missed it. No, you didn't miss it. You just missed the quarter of it.
Right,
There's
exactly.
3/4. Because you know what? I tell you, Dan, the last few weeks, those last games, I don't know if I'm seeing the board clearer at night. Maybe the alcohol's kicking in. I don't know what it is, but I'm hitting 3, 4, 5 out the door, and and that's really. 2 most important horse races are always the first and the last. The first because you're playing with their money, and the last because if you did be stupid enough to bring a date to the racetrack, you can't say, honey, I don't have enough for dinner. You got to be able to buy dinner. Well, it's the same thing here. I mean, if you hit that last game, right, that's your money now. There's nowhere, unless you're a degenerate, but I mean, there's no other way to invest it. Take it back.
Yep, sure, 100%. So we have lines for you guys. We got player props for you guys. So let's dive into this thing because we got 3 games today alone to talk about. We got the Packers and the Lions are kicking off the Thanksgiving slate. Lions favored at 2.5 with an over/under of 48.5. So far the Packers have been 4-7 against the spread, and the Lions have been 6-5. Not great trends here on the main lines. But Chaz, what are you seeing in this game?
Well, here's. All the trends are for the matchup. So on the road, Green Bay's allowed 13 plus and 4-4. They're 1-8 against the spread on the road in their last 9. On the road for the game, they've scored 27 plus and 4-4. Those have all gone over, and they're on an 8-1-1 over streak. But at home, Detroit has scored 14 plus and 11 of 12. So here's what I noticed with the Green Bay Packers. They have allowed 20 or less in 4-4, yet they're 1-2-1 against the spread, and that there is the point spread. That's what it does to you. You do really good, and it doesn't reward you. I'm on Detroit early. This is one of my key games. So what I did is I hit some basketball this week. I've always liked the Thanksgiving and Christmas basketball. I just look at the top 25. I bet the best team. And I'll give whatever they're giving. It doesn't matter. And so I hooked them up with Detroit first half and Detroit first half over 12.5 points. So I'm already live today.
All right. I'm loving that. I have 20 player props for you guys throughout today's show. And I had 5 player props on the huddle come out. That article came out last night. And then my normal 15 player prop article will come out on Saturday as per normal. And yet this is one of the few games that I didn't give you a player prop. You have two teams that are wildly inconsistent with high variance over the past month in particular. I'm just going to kick back, enjoy this game, live bet it like you're suggesting, but I'm not going into it in any direction because you have two teams that are just opposite sides, just coming at each other right now, playing a wide variance throughout all their players and the team lines. Okay, so let's talk about the Chiefs and Cowboys because I have a little concrete betting for you guys in this matchup. So we got the Chiefs favored on the road at 3.5 points with a total of 52.5. Chiefs are 5-5-1 against the spread this season. Cowboys 6-5. What are you thinking here, Chaz?
So we talked about Dallas making people healthy. Look, like 21 points. That first half, and I say it to Vicky all the time. When I lose a game, but I hit the first half, I simply look at her and say, honey, that's why you bet the first half. Because I have that money, right? And I can go the other way. I could do a lot of things. I've got some really unique wagers this week that I'm doing with quarters. But so this one says Dallas for the game. They scored 24 plus in 7 of 8. Well, we know they're scoring, but they're allowing 21 in 10 of 11. This is the first week of the year, by the way, Dan, that I no longer am looking at last year's. There's enough games for this year that I don't need last year, okay? So when I say 10 of 11, that's every single game, pretty much, every single game. So, yeah, I'm on the over in this game.
Yeah, it's interesting because you got two teams that are opposite, right? The Kansas City Chiefs are 3-8 to the under, or over under, and then Dallas is 7-4 to the over. So you got two teams kind of on the opposite ends of this thing. I'm with you, though, with Dallas's defense and the fact that Chiefs are so pass heavy now. I do think this is a game in which we see the Chiefs offense bounce back a little bit. All they got to really do is get to somewhere between 24 and 27 points, with Dallas basically doing the same, which is they do quite often at home, to get to the over here at the 52.5.
Well, listen to this. It says Kansas City number 1 in yards per game, Dallas number 5, Dallas number 1, right? Then it says Dallas number 1 in passing yards per game, and Kansas City number 2. So, right, those are good offenses.
No, 100%. And you know what? I even kind of like. There's nothing impressive about the Chiefs right now. There's nothing that tells me that they should be a road favorite in this game. I know Dallas hasn't been great, but their defense is actually been playing a little bit better as of late since they made the Quinnen Williams move. Nobody seems to want to give credit for. And I think they do cover. Give me the plus points at 3.5. But this is going to be a close game down to the wire. I like Dallas at home. I do have player props for you guys in this game, though. So I have Patrick Mahomes. Talk about those yardage and being number 1 team in yardage going up against that secondary in Dallas. Yeah, I have him over his 268.5 yard passing mark coming into this game. I got him projected for a 300-yard performance. And then Rashee Rice, his confidant, 75.5 receiving yards. I have him over that at 86.4. Thank goodness it seems like the hamstring injury was not actually an injury. It might have just been cramps. Practice on full on Tuesday. But it's a good matchup for both Patrick Mahomes and Rashee Rice to be hitting their overs. Hey, we got some comments coming in. We are live today, so I'll try to answer these as quickly as I can as we throw out the show. So Jose here asking here, Jalen Waddle, Xavier Worthy, or Deebo Samuel? Pick one, full point PPR. Jose, this is not close. It is Jalen Waddle for me. He's a top 10 top 10 wide receiver, ever since Tyreek Hill went out with injury, and a nice matchup again this weekend against the New Orleans Saints. All right, so let's move.
Well, you know how I like because you did it with the Rams last week with the Ram game, quarterback and receiver over. Duh. I mean, some of this stuff is not rocket science.
It's beautiful when they correlate so well. It is. We got the Ravens-Bengals tonight, Thanksgiving night game. The Ravens, this is a little bit interesting to me. The Ravens are favored by 7 points. This is a team that has not played well. Now, I know they covered against the Jets, the lowly Jets. But the Cincinnati Bengals played a tough game against the New England Patriots. They get Joe Burrow back today. They get Jamar Chase off of suspension. They lose T. Higgins, sure. I'm not saying the Ravens can't cover in this one, but I kind of like Cincinnati plus the points here. And another little underdog special. The Ravens are just not playing impressive enough football, in my opinion, to have a 7-point spread. And both teams are 4-7 against the spread coming into this one. So neither team covers very well anyway. What are you seeing in this game, Chaz?
Cincinnati overall last 10 games. Again, There've only been like 10 games, 27 plus every single time. Baltimore's allowing 19 or less in 6 of 6. So I would say that if I'm telling you, of all the teams in the league I know this team better, even without being a personnel guy, because of the fact that I'm watching these games with my wife. So what I'm seeing on this is all Baltimore. Here's what I'm seeing. Their defense is been good. Their offense is getting better. And Joe Burrow, now if you're a 49er fan, if you said Joe Montana was going to start, I would say I'd pick my ears up. I just don't – I'm a big Burrow fan. I just don't see them scoring a lot of points here. But here's the notes. I got more notes on this game than any of the other games. Cincinnati is the only team in the NFL allowing 400 or more yards. They're last in pass, but they're not last in run because the Giants are last in defense, have given up points. Baltimore team totals over 30.5. You know what? They haven't done that since week 2. So I don't know if they're going to be able to get that, but I like Baltimore in the over here. So where I'm betting it is the over. I'm betting Baltimore. I'll do some round robins too with it. But in the second half, I'm coming back in. Baltimore and over parlay.
All right, like that. I do have some props for you guys in this game, too. Speaking of the second worst run defense in the NFL, I'm going to take advantage of that with Derrick Henry, 90.5. Now, that seems like a high rushing yard stat, being that he hasn't consistently been hitting that the past few weeks, but it's playing against Cincinnati. You're getting to the second half.
156 they give up. 100. Think about that. That sounds like a bad college team.
Exactly. It's the matchup. It's the second half of the season where Derrick Henry starts playing his best football anyway. And while he hasn't necessarily gotten the yardage, the volume has gone back to his way, where he's back to getting like 18 to 22 carries per game. You get that kind of volume and a positive game script here against the Cincinnati Bengals. I think he gets over. I've been projected for over 100 yards rushing in this game. So give me the over at 90.5. I'm not done though. So I have Mark Andrews. His receiving yards prop is 38.5. Now here's a tidbit for you. He's not gone over that in the last like 6 games. He hasn't. But what did it in, again, matchup, Cincinnati Bengals. They're not just the worst defense against the tight ends this year. They are historically bad against the tight ends. And last week, Hunter Henry, who's a fine tight end, had 4 weeks where he was barely involved in the offense. And then he goes off for 7 catches, 115 yards, and a touchdown. Now, I'm not projecting Mark Andrews to go over 100, but I am projecting him to go over 38.5 in this game. I got him at 43.7 yards. And one more, Jamar Chase. He's back. T. Higgins out with concussion. Joe Burrow back. Offense, expected game script is for Cincinnati to have to come back from behind in the second half. 93.5. Big line. There's nobody in Baltimore secondary who can stick Jamar Chase, especially when he's going to be the sole target for this team. I have him projected for 107.4 receiving yards this game. Give me the over on Jamar Chase. All right.
Hey, Dan.
Yes, go ahead.
Do they let you bet targets?
Not always.
Yeah, only because you're coming back. You haven't played. You've been playing with this guy since you were 19 years old, right? You're going to throw the ball to this guy. I mean, it's just happening. So, yeah, I mean, I would say I would hit him for touchdown. I would hit him for targets. I would hit him for receptions, and I'd hit him for the yards. I mean, I would load up on this guy. I really would. Yeah. And I might because of the fact that I really think that, they're going to score some points. And I think he's going to get most of those. Don't get me wrong. I know it. You know it. Well, I guess Baltimore's defense probably knows it too.
Sure. Well, it doesn't mean you can always stop him. That's why it's Jamar Chase. But
he's a Hall of Fame. He's Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can bet his receptions and his yards, his touchdowns. There's not usually a prop for targets, typically speaking anyway. Black Friday. 3:00, guys. Why it's 3:00? I don't know. I actually talked about this on my show. Either pick 1:00 or a prime time. Why are we doing 3:00? It's just so weird. But anyway, especially on a standalone game. Black Friday, we got the Bears and we got the Eagles. Eagles favored in this game at home, as they should be, by 7 points. I know the Bears are 8-3 and everything else like that, but this is a flukish 8-3 team. Let's be real about it. Eagles, they have some woes they need to figure out themselves, but the defense is still very much elite and firing off on all cylinders. Bears are 7-4 against the spread, but so are the Philadelphia Eagles so far this season. This spread's about right. So I'm not going to attack the game line, but the over-under is 44.5. I like the over in this game because the Bears do a lot of their damage in the fourth quarter when they're trying to come back. It's usually when the Eagles are playing a little bit more prevent defense. I do think that the Eagles last week, even though they lost against the Dallas Cowboys, did get the downfield passing going, and that's how you attack Chicago. I think we're going to see more points than 44.5 in this game. So give me the over. But Chaz, what are you seeing?
Well, we talked about Philly, and against Dallas, and they're 7-1 against the spread in the first half, and they've scored 13 plus in 5 of 6. But in the second half, they're not scoring, so they're not scoring for the game. The last 3 games, 21 or less. They don't give up points on the road. I got some notes here, though. It says that Chicago scored 19 at Minnesota and 16 at Baltimore. And what that's telling me is that, they're not scoring points when they play good defense at home. Chicago has been money for me. I've been winning money, and Philly hasn't. But I think that -7 is a trick. I really do. I think it should be more than it. The Rams, they're the only team that scored more than the 21 at Philly, and the Rams are not equal to the Bears. That's what it says. Is Bears greater than Chicago? No. First half, last 8 games for the Eagles, they've scored 15 points a game. Second half, last 8 games, half of that, 7.25. They got to fix that. I'm a second half guy. I don't know if you know that about me. I like second halves. And the reason I like second halves is when championships are won is in the second half. And they're not right now a championship team. But I think the Bears are where they are, exactly like you said, by who they played.
Yeah, 100% looking at that one. Not big on the edges for the props in that matchup, actually. So let's move on to the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts at home. This is early Sunday morning. They're favored at 4.5 points. Again, as they should be, with a total of 44.5 heading into this matchup. Texans are 5-6 against the spread. Does look like they're going to get CJ Stroud back, so that's the good news there. Colts have been 6-3-2 against the spread so far this season. Both these, I should say Houston really heavily goes to the under, 3-7-1 over versus under so far this year. And Indianapolis has been about 6-5 as far as over and under are concerned. I do like the under myself in this game. The Houston Texans defense is just, they're on a whole other level right now. Like them and the Browns on a whole other level. The difference between the Houston Texans defense versus the Browns defense is that the Texans at least have a competent enough offense where they actually get to have a break every once in a while. And right now, the Browns, they don't have that. So, and that's really the biggest difference between the two at the moment. But these are two teams that don't give up a lot of points. Colts defense is getting better. They made the acquisition for Sauce Gardner. It's an offense that's not great at generating points themselves. So I actually like the under in this game. Chaz, what do you think?
Yeah, if you think Houston is going to be close in this game, you got to go with the under. They just don't give up points. They give up 19 or less in 4 or 5. And really, there's not a football league in America. I don't care, Division III. If you give up 19 or less, you're a good team and you're going to win a lot of games. And the other side, Indianapolis, all they do is score. But here's what I got in the notes. Number one against the defense, right, is Houston, 264 yards per game. But this Taylor guy is a different animal, I think. And he's playing like it. He's playing MVP running back football, right? Indy scores against everybody. Again, 11 games, 11 times they scored 20 or more. They got the number 1 points per game offense. They're going to score some points here. The over-under is 24.5 for their team total. I don't know about that. I don't know if they're going to cover the line. I'm going to have them, but they're going to be one of my money line plays. I do that big money line parlay, look to get 3-1. I make it a big bet, and then if that hits, I get all the other money because I'm live to 6 parlays with Detroit today because I do these round robins, and if I get lucky, sometimes I get lucky.
There you go. Sometimes a little bit of luck goes a long way. I do have a player prop for you guys in this one. Daniel Jones, player passing yards, 226.5. It's one of my few unders, Chaz, but I do have the under on his 226.5 passing yard mark. I have him projected for about 220 in this game. Again, 2 things laid it out for you. Great Houston Texan defense. The Colts are very much a run-first team behind Jonathan Taylor. Don't expect the ball to be moved a lot either way. So give me the under. Daniel Jones there at 226.5.
If you like the under for the game, and we talk about this all the time, where you do all your work. When you like something, don't be afraid to win a lot of bets with one handicapping. And if you like the under for the game, then the under for a throw-in for a quarterback on a team with Jonathan Taylor is a brilliant play.
Well, it's what we talk about all the time, Chaz. If you have a good process, then you want to hammer home on what it is that you're seeing. So I know some people will go, well, what if you're wrong? And then all those bets you made to correlate towards the under just go badly. That's going to happen from time to time, without a doubt. The key is we have a good process like we do on this show, or listen to people who do have a good process. More times than not, you're going to hit. And then when you hit consistently like that, you boost up your bankroll and you can absorb some of those losses that inevitably will happen down the road. But you're going
you lose 5 games, but the one game you were right, you hit 8 bets, all of a sudden you're 8-5, and you know what, you got your money back, you play another. Really, when you go play golf, no matter how you shoot, when you check out at the wherever they call that guy that takes your card, they're not giving you any money back. The sportsbook will do that.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so we got the 49ers and the Browns. I'm actually going to be at this game in person. So if you guys happen to see me in Cleveland, give a little shout out. But the 49ers on the road favored at -4.5 points here with a total, which is one of the lowest ones of the week. Total is 36.5. 49ers 7-5 against the spread. The Browns have been 5-6 against the spread. Here's what's interesting to me about this, Chaz. And the over is not wrong. 36.5, that's about right. But my thing is, if it's going to be that low, giving the 49ers bad history against Jim Schwartz and playing against the Cleveland Browns, they've lost the last 5 times to the Browns. Last 5 times. And this is not much of a different team. And as much as I'm going to be there and rooting for my 49ers, very good chance this is just a field goal game. So give me the Browns plus 4.5 in this matchup here. What are you seeing?
Are you repping 49er colors when you go?
I will be, yes.
Good. Hopefully you get some nice Cleveland people. You know, there's certain places you got to be careful when you do that. I don't think Cleveland's one of them, though. Hey, in the first quarter, speaking of Cleveland, in the first quarter, they played every single game they played this year has gone under except one. They're 10-11. So 10, that would be 1-10 over to under. So I'm going to have that. I mean, I don't bet a lot of money when I see 10 out of 11, but I just tell you, if you're an idiot. If you see 10 out of 11 and you don't bet it, you're an idiot. It's really that simple. San Francisco on the road is allowing 21 plus and 6 of 6, and it's gone over 5-0-1 there. But the notes I have for this game is San Francisco, number 3 passing yards per game, 249. They got too many weapons. They have no problem playing. They just don't score, right? However, Cleveland allows more yards than they get. That's a stat that I find very interesting. There's very much a correlation to my winning and my betting against teams that give up more yards than they get. And that's what the number 2, right? They got the number 2 defense, Cleveland, in passing yards, 170. They give up 170. This is almost too funny. They give up 100. They got the number 2 defense, and they still allow more yards than they get. You just talked about it with the difference between Houston's offense and Cleveland's offense. But when you said it, you said it like that. When you read the numbers, it's embarrassing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's been the biggest difference so far this season. Speaking of Cleveland not being able to put up yards, I got the prop for you guys in this game. So Shedeur Sanders, once again, going to be the starting quarterback this week. His passing yard prop, his prop line is 156.5. That's an incredibly low prop yard line. And I still have the under. I still am projected for 139.2 passing yards. This offense, the passing offense in particular, is broken. And as we saw on Monday night, even though this is a 49ers defense that most teams are going to be able to take advantage of, if you're a bad quarterback and a bad offense, they can still limit you pretty well, a la Bryce Young. So give me the under on Shedeur Sanders at 156.5 passing yards. All right, so Jaguars-Titans early Sunday window. Jaguars at the Titans in this matchup. Jaguars favored at 6.5 points with a total of 41.5. Jaguars have been 6-5 against the spread, and the Titans have been 5-6 against the spread themselves. Here's what's funny, Jazz. The Jaguars should cover. And I'm actually on a bit of a heater with the Jaguars right now because I won with them against the Chargers. I had them as an underdog special, and they blew them out. I had them covering against Arizona. It took it to overtime, but they did wind up covering because it was only a 2.5 line. And yet I still feel very nervous about betting them minus 6.5 against a very bad Tennessee team because they're the Jaguars. You just know you've been burned from the past. But they are on a heater right now. I am going to take them to cover this because, well, they should. What do you see in this game?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. So here's what we got. Jacksonville in their last 4 scored 27 plus, and they are. You could see them. Now, I've always been the big fan of that quarterback, but the bottom line is they have struggled, but they definitely have looked better. And the eye test, right? We say that all the time.
Yeah.
On the road, they've scored 26 or more in 5 of 5, but they've allowed 24 plus in 5 of 6. They've been over in 6 of 6. Tennessee at home has allowed 23 in 7 of 8 and have been over in 7 of 8. I have Jacksonville in the over. Jacksonville has the number 1 rushing defense. We talked about Cleveland and Houston, and they snuck right by both of them on defense, on rushing, 84 yards. So Tennessee allows 100 yards. We talked about this recently. They allow over 100 yards more than they get. Think about that. That's one whole time up and down the field.
Speaking of the rushing yards, I have the over on Travis Etienne at 65.5 rushing yards to kind of go to that point. So there's a time and place just 2 weeks ago that we thought, is Tootin about to take over this backfield? And then they both got injured. Like, he picked up an ankle injury, got knocked out the rest of the game, but he played the following week. And Travis Etienne was dealing with the shoulder kind of sprain situation, and he played last week. But the difference is they went back to Etienne being the bell cow, and Tootin went back to being, in snap percentage at least, the third string running back. Now again, it's just because LaQuint Allen, he plays on passing down, so it's really Tootin's the number 2. But what it tells me is that Tootin's not ready to take over this backfield yet. As much as people wanted him to, or ready to jump on it, when we saw that one little sample size of it possibly happening, it's not going to happen yet. So I'm going to ride Etienne like he's the lead back because that's what he is as of right now until we get different information. And you go up against the Tennessee Titans team, like you said, hemorrhaging rushing yards. So give me 65.5 for a guy who should get 15 plus carries in this game. I have him projected for about 74.3 rushing yards. And I think that's on the low end heading into a matchup like this. So Travis Etienne over 65.5 rushing yards. Rams, Panthers. This could be ugly. This could be absolutely ugly. With the way the Rams are playing right now, the way the Panthers are playing, the Panthers, they lose their safety due to the suspension with the whole hit to the gonads on Juwan Jennings. And now we're left with the Rams going into Carolina at a 10-point favorite in this game, 44.5 over under. The Rams have been 8-3 against the spread. To the Panthers' credit, they've been 7-5 against the spread in their own right. But here's the difference. The 49ers played a horrendous game on Monday and still beat the Panthers 20-9. They still covered by 11 points. The Rams are on fire right now. They might blow this thing out by like 20. So give me the Rams minus 10 covering in this game. What do you got?
Yeah, again, we're on the same page. Here's what I got. The Rams on the road, they've scored 26 plus in 4 or 5. On the road in their last 10 games, they're 9-1 against the spread. As you know, the Rams in Denver in the second half been covered for the Rams. The last 2 games haven't, and the reason is because they didn't need to. And so remember I say that I'm a big how many points you get for how many yards you get. So the bottom line is if you need 20 yards to get a point against me, and I can get a point every 11 yards against you, you're in trouble. Cleveland, they allow 273 yards a game, right? It's 22 points. Seattle, more. They allow 301 yards a game, but it's only 20 points, so it goes down. So the yards go up and the points go down. That don't make sense. The Rams allow 311 yards a game and only 16 points. Yeah, I got LA Rams and I got LA Rams team total over because that guy is in the zone. Is he not the quarterback? Holy cow.
Stafford should be, as of right now, the MVP. As of right now. We'll see if it holds up the rest of the season.
Now,
right
from
now,
a championshipfootballs.com, the coolest present they'll open that day guaranteed point of view, I don't want the Rams because the LA people just don't buy the stuff like the Midwest people do.
They don't show up for the games. They don't buy
the Midwest people, man. I just need Midwest. I get Midwest championships. You know, I can afford to pay the bills.
Oh, well, hopefully I can afford to pay bills on the player prop I have for this game, too. So I got Kyren Williams, and I know he has been giving up some touches to Blake Corum, especially when they blow teams out in the fourth quarter. And that's a risk here, too. But the line is only 63.5 rushing yards out of Kyren Williams. That's it. That's all it is. I have him projected for 80 in this game. He wasn't replaced by Corum last week. It was they blew the other team out, and then he came in the fourth quarter. But leading up until then, Kyren was very much getting his normal work share. It just didn't work out against Tampa Bay, who's tougher against the run, especially between the tackles. Well, Carolina Panthers are not nearly as tough against the run in that sense. So I get Kyren Williams projected for about 80, over 63.5 rushing yards, and a modest prop for a guy who is a lead back on a good offense. Saints, Dolphins. Yes, we can still win bets in games that are ugly like this. So we're in Miami with the Saints, and the Dolphins are favored at 5.5 points coming off the bye. The total is 42.5. The Saints have been 3-8 against the spread, and as bad as the Dolphins have been as a team, they are 6-5 against the spread here. Give me the Dolphins to cover at minus 5.5. And the biggest reason is this, Chaz. As unimpressive as they've been, and of course, part of this is that the Saints are a really bad football team too. But I had to talk about this in my show 2 days ago when we did our Week 13 preview for, start sits and DFS cocktail and all that. The Dolphins defense sneakily has played much better their past 3 games than what we saw early on in the season when they were just hemorrhaging rushing yards and points and to everybody. They played a lot better over the last 3 weeks. They figure something out here. And it's funny. It kind of correlates to them trading Jaden Phillips. Not that I think they're more talented without Jaden Phillips, but it has correlated with that. They changed up the style of the scheme. And as a result, this team has been more competitive and has managed upsets like against the Buffalo Bills. It's a weird thing to say, but the Dolphins are actually trending in the right direction. Going against the Saints team is terrible. So, yeah, I like the Dolphins to cover here, 5.5 points. What are you seeing?
First quarter, Saints, 1-10 against the spread. So that's a 10 out of 11. So I think we've already heard like 3 or 4 10 out of 11. So you got to pay attention to those. In the road games, their last 8 games, so that's going into last year, 19 or less, 8 straight. Everything on Miami, and this is under. But this is New Orleans. They score 10 or less, score 10 or less, score 19 or less, allow 7 or more, score 10 or less, score 10. I mean, nothing good. They just are horrible. So, yeah, I am on the under in this game, and I will have that first quarter of Miami because 1-10 against the spread is 1-10 against the spread.
Love it. I also have player props in this game, too. So, Tyler Shuck, passing yards, over-under set at 221.5. I have him projected for about 160 in this game. I know you had 243 passing yards last week. Again, this is a tip to the cap of 2 things. 1, Miami's defense playing better. 2, and this is something we got to watch for fantasy football purposes, but Chris Olave came out of practice on Wednesday early because of a back issue. Now, how bad it is and everything, don't know yet. We're going live here on Thursday morning. I'm waiting to get another update. But if Chris Olave goes down on top of the defense for the Dolphins playing better, this could go really badly for the passing game for the New Orleans Saints here coming up. So I like him under that prop bet there. I also have Devon Achane over his rushing yards. Now, he's been on fire anyway. And the Saints, another team, another defense that hemorrhages rushing yards. So Devon Achane, 80.5 rushing yards. I have him projected for about 94 coming into this game. He's been the bright spot for the Dolphins, whether they've been winning ball games or not, because he's been on fire. So give me that over there for Devon Achane in this one. Cardinals, Buccaneers, the Bucks. Despite Baker Mayfield not knowing if he's going to play and all the other injuries that we're dealing with, Bucky Irving may be back. That's good news. Chris Godwin might play a little bit more. Also some good news. And the Cardinals are a bad football team. And the Bucks are favored at home by 3 points in this game, with a total of 44.5. Here, and both teams are 5 and 6 against the spread. Here's what I'll say. And this line may move depending upon this news. Teddy Bridgewater is taking all the first team reps. Now, that doesn't mean he's necessarily going to play. They're just getting him ready while Baker Mayfield gets healthy from this AC joint sprain that he has in his non-throwing shoulder. But if it starts to sound like Baker Mayfield is not going to go, Bridgewater looked horrible. And while the Cardinals are not a great football team by any means, their offense is playing well enough to sneak them in a game like this. So I'm tentatively, based on the news of Baker Mayfield later in the week, I'm tentatively picking the Cardinals to be my underdog win outright of the week. Again, wait for that news there. What do you see in this game, Chaz?
Overall, Arizona scored 22 plus in 6 straight. They've allowed 27 plus in 5 of 6. That's part of their issue. They've Tampa Bay overall allowed 24 and 4 of 5, and on the at home, they're playing at home. They've scored 23 plus in 7 of 7, and the last 6 have gone over. I am on the over in this game, but this is another game where both teams allow more yards than they get. So their offenses are bad, and their defenses are worse.
Yeah, that's why that makes for an underdog type of game there. So that's why I'm leaning in that direction. Okay, so let's talk a little Falcons and Jets here early Sunday. Kirk Cousins looked like maybe he's not quite as cooked as we thought. It still didn't look great. Let's not get it twisted here. And the Falcons did everything they possibly could to hide him last week. But the deep throw that he did get to Darnell Mooney in that game, that was a throw that I didn't think he could do at all. So the fact that there's maybe something in that tank definitely bodes well for the Atlanta Falcons to maybe finish out here, not pathetically, and put it that way. They are favored against the Jets here at 2.5 points on the road. Another low over here. It's a total of 39.5. Falcons have been 5-5-1 against the spread. The Jets have been 6-4-1 against the spread in this matchup. So this is another one. Everything's telling me to take the Falcons minus 2.5 in that line, and it's scary because the Falcons are not nearly as good on the road as they are at home. And I know they just beat the Saints on the road, but that's also in a dome against a divisional rival. This is in New York. It's a little bit different outdoors. This is a team that just doesn't usually play well in that scenario. But the Jets just don't have enough firepower. And what the Falcons do have going for them is as healthy of a defense as they're going to get. Like, I know Billy Bowman, he's out now with the Achilles thing, but they get Devon Diablo back. Their defense has looked a lot better over the past couple of weeks. They're getting a pass rush. Jeff Ulbrich gets a revenge situation, the defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons. So everything shows me that the Falcons should be able to cover a modest 2.5 point line, even though my guts doesn't feel the greatest about it. But what do you see in this game, Chaz?
It says that for the game, Atlanta scored 23 plus 4 straight and 3 straight 23 plus on the road. The Jets overall are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6. But here's what I've got for my notes. Besides this huge X where I put my pick, I have a big X. I did it again, so it's double inked. But it says the Jets have only 10 more yards of passing than running. 145 to 135, and that's the lowest ratio. Because, I mean, it should be, in a perfect world, 2-1, right? Somewhere in that range. They are pitiful. But they've been pitiful. So, Ed Crowley, shout out, to the JETS guys out there. God bless you, because that's what fans, fanatics, fans, that's a curse. It's a curse sometimes. It really is. I mean,
Yeah, when you're growing up as a kid and you have a family, there was this one commercial I just saw it the other day too, where the dad, he's in the hospital bed, he's holding his baby and said, "Yeah, buddy, we're Jets fans," and then the baby gets up and runs away down the hallway. No,
I didn't see that, but I'll look for it.
I was like, that's exactly what you should do when you're told you're a Jets fan as a child. In this game, I do have a player prop for you. It's on the Jets side, actually. So Breece Hall, I have him over his receiving yards prop at 23.5 in this game. Tyrod Taylor came in and did exactly what I thought he would do, which is actually a good thing for the Jets, or at least for fantasy football purposes anyway. And that's check the ball down a little bit more and get Breece Hall involved in the pass game. Is the running lanes always there? No. But guess what? The guy's a dual threat running back. Use him as such more consistently, especially when you have no wide receivers. Your lead wide receivers are John Mechie and A.D. Mitchell. Like, your best weapon is Breece Hall. Give him the freaking ball. That's what Tyrod Taylor did last week. So I have Breece Hall projected for 30.2 receiving yards in this game, well over his 23.5 mark.
I wonder what the average yards is for a wheel route that's successful, because sometimes they drop the ball, sometimes they don't, they get knocked out of. But so how many times do you see them just running up the sidelines and they go 23 yards?
Oh yeah, absolutely, especially out of the backfield, a running back like Breece Hall. Let's talk about the Vikings and Seattle Seahawks. A lot of big narratives in this game, but looking like it'll be a lopsided affair. So the Seahawks are favored at 11.5 points, with a total of 41.5. The Vikings are 4-7 against the spread. The Seahawks are 8-3 against the spread. It's a huge line, but now you have an undrafted rookie quarterback in Max Brosmer. And look, JJ has been horrendous, 100%. It's hard for me to believe that Max Brosmer is going to be much better. And Seattle should easily cover this game at 11.5 points with their defense against, I guess, the way the Minnesota Vikings have been relegated to offense. That's what I'm seeing. What are you seeing, Chaz?
So this is a unique one. In the first quarter, on the road, Minnesota is 1-6 against the spread, but they've allowed a touchdown in every single game. You know that the team total overs are usually 3.5, 6.5. I mean, that means every single game the other team is scoring a touchdown. On the road, no, at home. This is on the road. Minnesota's allowing 23 and 8-9. 8-9 is pretty much the whole year, so that's 23 points. They scored 27. That is Seattle, 4 straight at home, over 5-6. I like Seattle in this one, but I'm going with their team total over. But I'm going to hit them early. That's one of my quarter one plays, because I just, if you give up a touchdown every single game for 7 straight games, and the 8th game comes and I don't bet it, and it happens, I should just, become a monk.
Well, I have another one for you in this game too. So speaking of Max Brosmer, and I gave a little rundown on him in my show yesterday when I did with Dr. Brian Scott in the Injury Inquiry episode. But for those of you who don't know and you're tuning in, Max Brosmer is out of the University of Minnesota. He's a bit of a hometown guy. So good for him on that standpoint. But again, there's a reason he was an undrafted quarterback. So his passing yard prop, and they have to set this line somewhere. If they could set it lower, I think they would have. But his passing yard prop is 173.5. Very, very low. I still have him projected for 160. For a guy who's an undrafted rookie quarterback, it is a hell of a spot to find yourself in, going up against one of the top defenses in the NFL in the Seattle Seahawks. On top of everything else, on the road, it's not a good formula. It's just flat out, it's not a good formula. So give me the under Max Brosmer at 173.5 passing yards. So we got the Raiders, we got the Chargers. Chargers favored in this game at minus 10 points with a total of 41.5. Here's the good news, though, and I don't know what this will equate to week one, but Chip Kelly's gone. He's fired. The overpaid offensive coordinator did 11 games and finally got himself out the door. It can only mean positive things for the Raiders. Now, I'm not saying that means they cover here in this one, but I do think it's a good step in the right direction where I am not actually willing to bet the line on the Chargers to cover at 10 points, even though they are the superior team on paper, because the Chargers are a team that like to have wide variance, and we have a variable that we can't necessarily account for with the Raiders now after that move. I don't know. So what do you see, Chaz?
Yeah, when you look at the pass for the Raiders, you just go to the next team, right? Because it's just horrible. And it does say that the Chargers at home score a lot of points. They score 23 or more in 6 of 7, and in the second half at home, they're 5-1-1 against the spread. But here's the notes that I have. I agree with you 100%. Too many points, right? But they like playing at home, and they're good at home. It says here they got a top 5 defense in the yards per game, and that Vegas is allowing 320 yards a game and gaining 268. So again, that's almost the 70-point difference. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this game at minus 6.5, minus 180, and I'm parlaying it with the Denver game. When we get to the Denver game, we'll talk about that. I think it's probably going to be one of the next games. But I got those two together at plus 126. Minus 180, I don't have a problem betting minus 180. But let me tell you the difference between minus 180 and minus 110. Stress level. The stress level is so much higher for that minus 70 because once I score a touchdown, I'm winning. If you're giving 10 or probably 10.5 by the time it kicks off, you're not. So I'm winning and you're not. It's that simple.
Like it. Spock coming in here with a fantasy football question. He wants to start 2 from a full point PPR and 1.75 PPR tight end premium. Rico Dowdle, Omarion Hampton, Harold Fannin. This is very, very easy for me, Spock. It is Rico Dowdle and Harold Fannin. So Omarion Hampton, even if he plays this week, and I do think he's going to because Greg Roman kind of talked about what the split was going to be. But to those comments, he also mentioned that Kamani Vidal and Omarion Hampton were going to be in some sort of 1-2 punch, which makes sense when we're talking about a guy who missed 6 weeks coming off an ankle fracture, that Omarion Hampton's not just going to walk in to the 80% snap count that he was getting before the injury. So I want to see Omarion Hampton for a week first before I fully trust him in fantasy when I have the option. Harold Fannin has been the favorite target, small sample size, I know, but the favorite target of Shedeur Sanders to this point, and really was of Dylan Gabriel too anyway. Plus, you get the premium there with the tight end. So I do like Harold Fannin, and then Rico Dowdle is still a must start in my book, even in a tough matchup against the Rams. Getting back to this Chargers-Raiders game, though, because I do have a few props for you guys in this one. So while I question the Chargers' ability to cover at 10 points, I don't question that their passing game will have a bounce-back game coming off the bye after that Jacksonville debacle against a Raiders defense that hemorrhages receiving and passing yards. So I have Justin Herbert over 235.5 passing yards in this game. I have him projected for about 245. And I'm going to parlay that up with Ladd McConkey, whose receiving yards are sitting at 52.5. I have him projected for about 65.3 in this game. Things looking up for the Chargers passing attack at the very least. Buffalo Bills heading over to Pittsburgh. Does sound like Aaron Rodgers is going to play, but we still have to watch that throughout the week. The Bills are favored on the road at 3.5 points with a total of 47.5. Both of these teams are 5-6 against the spread this season. The Bills should cover. Talk about another team I don't trust to actually bet. I don't trust any of these game lines, actually. So what are you seeing, Chaz?
Whereas the other game had 2 X's because I was so adamant that I ain't touching this game. This one only has 1 because I could see me coming into this game. It says here, Buffalo allows 23+ in 3 straight. Pittsburgh scores 23+ in 7 of 8. Pittsburgh in the first half is 8-2 against the spread. Yeah, so I'm not betting it, but it says Buffalo's number 1 offense in running yards and number 3 overall, and their number 1 defense in passing yards. So if you're number 1 defense in passing yards and the number 1 offense in rushing yards, you got a really good team, and yet I trust them not. But Pittsburgh's allowed 60 more yards than they gain. Again, that stat is you just can't win if you give up more yards. I mean, you might have a winning season, but you can't win and go in the playoffs if you give up more yards than you get. It's just that simple.
Yeah, no, absolutely true. Josh Allen. So I know he's been all over the map too, but I am going to take his over player passing yard mark at 234.5. This is more to do with a Pittsburgh team. Look, Pittsburgh's very, very simple. If their pass rush is working, they're going to be tough on defense. If it's not getting home, they're awful. They're a leaky sieve, especially in the passing game. And the Bills' offensive line, I know they had a tough outing against the Houston Texans. A lot of teams have a tough outing against the Houston Texans. The Bills' offensive line ultimately is a decent offensive line. This is a team that has a good shot at limiting the Pittsburgh Steelers from being able to get a pass rush. Remember, the Chicago Bears just did it a week ago. And I know the Bills' passing game has had its woes, but I do expect Josh Allen in this matchup, in this situation, to get over 234.5 passing yards. I have him projected for about 275 heading into this matchup.
You know, they've had their woes, but it's because, you know, and I've been beating this dead horse, you know, it's the NFL. 1, 2, 3, throw. That's kind of how it works. 1, 2, 3, throw. And if you could go 1, 2, 3, 4, you're deadly. And he was going 1, 2 hit. He was getting hit. I mean, they sacked him how many times?
Oh, what was it, 9, 10?
Yeah, and I felt so bad. I was, you know, this beautiful actress wife. I don't watch that. She's probably thinking he should retire. I make enough money.
All right, so we got the Sunday night game, the Broncos and the Washington Commanders. The Broncos on the road favor at 6 points with a 43.5 over under. Broncos have been 5-5-1 against the spread, but the Commanders have been 3-8 against the spread. Still not going to have Jaden Daniels in this game. Maybe they get Terry McLaurin back. We'll have to see. Still only a limited participant in practice, so it's difficult for me to imagine that he actually does come back unless he gets a full participation at some point this week. But neither here nor there. Even if McLaurin was out there, this wouldn't change my mind. Give me the Broncos to cover at 6 points. This is a very, very favorable type of matchup for this Denver Broncos team with their elite defense against an offense that doesn't have their starting quarterback and an offense that needs to get going on the Denver Broncos side, but facing one of the worst defenses in the NFL. The only thing about this game that's scary in any kind of capacity is that you have the Denvers going from west to east, and sometimes that can prove trouble, but I don't think there's trouble in this particular one. What do you see?
Yeah, Denver just isn't scoring, right? They're winning, but they're not scoring. They're just not giving up points. On the road, they've given up 17 or less 3 straight. They've had unders in 4 straight. Washington scored 22 or less in 5 of 5. They're on an 0-6 against the spread run. At home, they allow 24 plus, and overs are 8-2. In the second half at home, they score 12 plus and 7-9. Overs are 10-2. So yeah, this is the game. I just think it's too many points, but I know Washington's on a 1-7 against the spread run. Denver's 4-1 against the spread. So though I will, you know, if I bet you money line, I'm going to throw you in somewhere, because I always tell people the worst thing you can do is bet money line and then the team covers. If you do your math, and you can use an Excel if you want, just put it in there. What do I got to bet to where as long as they win, I win? And if they win both, I win both. But I just think it's too many points because I've seen them not score.
No, that's fair.
I've seen them not score. So I got a -2.5, -220. But that's only for parlay purposes. I probably won't bet that -220 straight, but I will parlay with a few. And the one is I'm definitely going to use the Chargers. So that 220, -220, -180 equals +126. And you know what? I like that number. We talked about that last week. You know, we give out a lot of plus numbers on this show. And so, you know, you don't have to hit 72% when you're doing plus numbers. You do 2 out of 3 plus numbers, you're winning money.
Yeah, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. I'm with you. It's all about the ROI at the end of the day, not how many times you hit. We got another question coming in from TB here. Double flex. Should I start Jared Goff or Sam Darnold? Dak is my other quarterback option. It's very so. I'll put it to you this way. I do have Jared Goff ranked higher than Sam Darnold, and I get why I'd be a little bit concerned about that. But this game being Detroit, Green Bay on Thanksgiving Day in Detroit here, the Lions are a much different team, typically speaking, when they're at home. I know it's a bit of a dud this past week. But the big key here is it's not just their offense plays typically better at home. It's that the Packers defense is a much different defense from home and road. Much different defense. It's Thanksgiving Day. How do you not go with the Detroit Lions? Plus Sam Darnold, I get it's a bit of a revenge narrative, but with Mac Brosmer starting for Minnesota, you'd have to hope that Darnold gets his points in the first half, because otherwise they're probably just going to run the ball out in the second half and make it a short game, because they should be up by a healthy lead. Like, remember, we took Seattle at 11.5 covering in that game. We're expecting a blowout situation. So give me Jared Goff in a competitive script and what could be a high scoring game on a Thursday over Sam Darnold trying to get his revenge narrative when they just might not need him to throw as much. So Jared Goff, a little bit higher for me in my rankings. It is kind of close though, but enjoy that Turkey Day. Getting back to the Broncos Commanders game, because I do have some player props for you guys in this matchup. So I got the Bo Nix. And again, I talked about getting their offense maybe having a chance for a course correction coming off of a bye, coming off in a matchup against the Commanders here. We got Bo Nix over his passing yards prop at 228.5. I have him projected for about 254. And then I have that correlated with Troy Franklin getting over his receiving yards prop. He's been the number one target over the past 6 weeks now for the wide receivers of Denver Broncos, and it's only sitting at 44.5. I love that line against this Commanders team. I have him projected for about 55. So give me Bo Nix over and give me Troy Franklin over. Let's get to our last game on this Turkey Day. So we got the Giants and the Patriots, our Monday Night Football. Patriots are favored at 7.5 points with an over, or total, of 46.5. Over or under. So as bad as the Giants have been, I do think it's important to say they've been 7-5 against the spread, and the Patriots are 7-4-1 against the spread. So a little something to keep in mind here. Both teams actually favor slightly, anyway, the over. Typically speaking, I like the Patriots. I like the Patriots over. I do. I like the over here at 46.5. I think both teams will be able to move the ball. We might see Jackson Dart back. He did practice in full coming off the concussion. That does help the Giants off. I know Jameis Winston had a great game against Detroit, and Jameis Winston, we know you can get big games, you can get really, really bad games. Ultimately, though, I think Jackson Dart gives them more of a predictable stability as far as the variance is concerned. So that does help. Give me the over in this game. What do you got, Chaz?
Same thing. I got the over, but this is the game I was talking about. So in the first quarter, the Giants have scored 7 or more in 8 of 9. They're 8-1 against the spread. For the game, they've scored 24 plus in 6 of 6 or 6-1 over. And on the road, they've allowed 24 plus in 6 of 6. New England have scored 23 plus in 9 of 9. So 9 of 9. But we know they got the best record in football, right? Don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we know 9 of 9, 23 plus. They've scored 24 plus at home. So it goes up at home 4-4. But they scored 7 points or more in 8 of 9, the Giants. And we've had a couple of those. Not as many as we should because it's the Giants, but we've had a couple of those. So in this game, I got the Giants in the first quarter. But when you look at the data, Dan, you see all the small numbers in the first quarter column for New England and all double-digit numbers in the second quarter. So if you don't have those points in the first quarter, but you have them at halftime, you had to get them in the second quarter. So this is the first time this year I got quarter 1 Giants, quarter 2 New England.
How about them apples? All right, I got player props for you guys in this game before we kick it out here. Drake May passing yards, 243.5. I'm over.
That's a bold statement.
Oop, that's not a bold statement. 275 and 0.6 yards passing in this game. Again, the Giants defense, I know they just fired defensive coordinator. That's a reason for that. And sometimes schemes, little changes here, little simplicities. We see improved play the following week when this happens. However, they just flat out don't have a talent. And if Matthew Stafford is not going to be the MVP at quarterback, it is going to be Drake May. It's one or the other with the way he's been playing. So I like the over here at 243.5 passing yards. I also on the Giants side do have somebody too. So Theo Johnson is sitting at just 32.5. I know the Patriots defense is good. It's a good, tough defense, especially over the middle of the field. But 32.5 yards is particularly low for a guy who's consistently been like the number 2 receiver on the Giants, whether it's been Jameis Winston or Jackson Dart. He has gotten targets. He has gotten production. I am projected for at least 42 yards in this game. So I like the over Theo Johnson at 32 and a half receiving yards. And that does it. That
you know what? I saw that stat they had up. It was Drake May on the left and Tom Brady on the right. It was after so many games. It was impressive. I always say that with Herbert. I give Herbert credit because when they show Herbert the stuff he's done in the 4 years he's been in the league, whatever it is, it's names. The names are great they're not good names. Those are great names. Well, Tom Brady arguably is the greatest quarterback, right, ever. You gotta, it's arguable, always arguable, but the bottom line, this guy's stats are better. It's amazing.
Drake May has been phenomenal. And the fact that he's done it without a signature weapon. Like, Stephon Diggs is fine, but he's a shell of himself. Like, he has okay players. It's not a very good team. It's still not a very good offense. And the fact he's been able to put up what he's done with that just shows
what great offensive talent do they have on that team? Could you name a great offense? Every team has a great, like Jamar Chase. What about great? He's great. He's not good. He's great, you know?
I think you have hope for Travion Henderson coming out of the backfield down the road, but right now, nobody. And that's kind of the point. It's Drake May doing it pretty much on his own. That's what's been so impressive about it. But that's going to do it for today's show. Make sure you guys go back and watch and listen to Operation Domination on your favorite podcast app. I know we did a lot before Thanksgiving, but our content was made for the entire week. So make sure you get caught up on that before we get to Sunday and Monday. If you do miss anything out today, make sure you check out our video content on the Fantasy Football Advice Network YouTube channel at FF Advice Net. You can hit me up on social media at Dan Mater FF throughout the weekend. We'll be there to help you guys out. Make sure you find my article on the Huddle coming up this Saturday for my 15-player prop bets. Chaz, what do you got? What do you got in the works, man?
Well, first of all, I am so old that I remember one of my best ever Thanksgivings. I swept the board. I went 5-0. Only 2 of those games were NFL games. 3 of them were college. This year, the best I can do is 4-0 because there's that Memphis game that I will be all over Memphis in the over on. And 3 of them are pro games. So you got to see where the money went. But speaking of savings, thanks, right? Thanks is what it's all about. We said at the start of the show, you go to championshipfootballs.com. When you check out, you just put thanks in the promo code, and it's an instant 25% off. Now, here's the thing. You got to watch it. You watched it live, or you got this tomorrow, because if you come Saturday, you're in trouble. Because it ends Friday. It's Black Friday.
Yeah, of course. So make sure
all week. It's been all week, but now it ends Friday.
Punch in that code and get that discount. So, guys, everybody have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your families. Everybody, please be safe out there with all the transportation. And Chaz, as you always like to say,
always be cashing.
We'll see you guys next week.